Hi, welcome to Sacred Enzyme. I'm Stacy, and today I'd like to take a few minutes to review this book, a few portions of this book, because there's a lot to review in here, and it's called The Lives of Edgar Cayce by W.H. Church. And the great thing about this book is it takes all of Edgar Cayce's readings and compiles them into one book. So you literally don't have to read 10 or 20 books about Edgar Cayce, because this one is a really good one. I mean, he did his research on Edgar Cayce. I definitely got to give it to him. But there's a really important part of in Edgar Cayce's teachings that a lot of people don't talk about, and I don't know why, because I find it very fascinating. But it's a conversation that is all throughout this book, and multiple readings that Edgar Cayce did talks about Amilius, and I want to read the highlights of the Amilius readings. Excuse me, the Amilius readings, because I find it very interesting. And so I'm just going to read from this book, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Okay. All right. So it says that the soul's purpose in the earth then is to find its way back from whence it came, exercising the divine gift of free will to grow heavenward, or to separate itself further from its maker. All souls emanate from one, and they return to the one. Okay. Now it says, and who's its maker? It says, the first begotten Son of God is identified in ancient tradition as the upper Adam, or archetypal human. Archetypal human, okay, who preceded the earthly Adam. This came before earthly Adam and the material creation of Adam. In fact, it was he as a God in his own right. For was he not made a full companion and heir of the ineffable one? So they talk about our universal creator God as the ineffable one. And then we're talking about Amilius as the first begotten son of the ineffable one. Okay? So I'm guessing this would be the very first archangel messenger of God, right? Would this be Lucifer? What we considered Lucifer is what I'm wondering. Because if he's bringing the light, he's a light bearer. Okay, let's keep reading. Who later became the maker, the creator of the manifest universe. He is also identified as mind, light, and the word. The readings call him Amilius, the name under which he first entered the earth plane as a thought form in the beginning, and through whom all the other souls were projected in that first influx as well as in the second. So there were two projected influxes of humanity into the earth plane. So the first one was thought as a thought form that was projected in the beginning. So wow, that's pretty interesting. And through whom all the other souls were then projected through. So all of the other souls came through Amilius, is what it's saying here. It says, it says, yet in the first cycle they came as gods or celestial beings. So this is where I guess we get all these gods in early times, right? Whereas in the second, they entered as flesh-formed souls, or earthly man. Okay. Surprisingly, it is indicated that the same Amilius was led astray. Maybe he is Lucifer, right? So that he ultimately had to work out his own salvation in the earth. Okay, so when you mess up, you got to work yourself out, right? As well as preparing the way for ours, for it is the first begotten of the Father. So Amilius is the first begotten Son. And as a matter is explained in these other readings, it allowed himself to be led in the ways of selfishness. In fact, although the soul's well-intentioned purpose here originally stated in this reading is to manifest heaven and heaven's forces, in the material creation, actually, the whole manifest universe and physical entry into the same marked an apparent lack of disobedience. So this is where you also get the story of Sophia, that Sophia unintentionally performed an act of disobedience, and that's why the Sophia came to the earth, and that's what it says in the Nag Hammadi Pista Sophia. So, oh my goodness, you're all wet. Okay, it is a subject hard to comprehend. In fact, Casey readily admitted that, come on, Ghost, too much knowledge for some. So then the other thing I wanted to read is, watch out, Ghosty. When the earth became a dwelling place for matter, when gases formed into those things that man sees in nature and in activity about him, then matter began its ascent to the various forms of physical evolution in the mind. And mind is a synonym for the first begotten Son of God. So mind means man. Mind means man. The spirit, as Amilius the son chose to enter, celestial, not an earth spirit. He, Adam, hadn't come to earth yet. So Amilius, he chose to put on and be part of which was a command not to be done. So those who enter must continue through the earth until the body-mind is made perfect for the soul. So that's pretty interesting. So then it says, it talks about how there was destruction on the earth, and the reason and it talks about that in Edgar Cayce's, he talks about caves in the ancient and arid plateau region of American Southwest belong to the continent of Lemuria. So I think that's interesting, because you remember when they found all of those, they found that cave in the Grand Canyon, and it had all those artifacts, and they didn't know where they came from, because they looked like they were like Buddhas and stuff, but they looked like they were like a bunch of different nationalities kind of blended together, which I thought was really interesting, because, you know, I think that back in ancient times there really was kind of a nondescript type person. I think that you might have had different shades, but I think physical features, I don't know, I think everybody was kind of nondescript, really. But it says that cataclysmic changes destroyed Lemuria. And then it says and then it talks about Amilius was a ruler of Atlantis. And it says the Atlantean rule of Amilius, like the much, much later decision of the early Israelites to abandon their God-given rights of self-rule, because Amilius was ruling himself, okay? He was doing his own thing. And so it says that that he decided, maybe because, you know, he had a lack of self-discipline, and that the projections that he had projected out from himself in the beginning, they were becoming less and less in touch with their spiritual reality, and they were becoming more physical. And so what ended up happening is that they had already separated themselves from one sex. See, this is why those old ancient gods were both sexes. They were like androgynous hermaphrodites, like Hermes and Aphrodite. Those are two characters that came from one, right? That's where you get hermaphrodite, Hermes, Aphrodite. They were double-sexed people, and then they split them out into single sex. They separated the male from the female, and they had done that in the beginning, but they didn't sexually reproduce the same way that they started reproducing sexually later, because they were still of celestial mindset, is what it's explaining to me. And then as time went on, there was a shift that happened, and then there was one person that split off and started using sex magic, and we have this Baal worship that comes out of this sex magic, or this, you know, this material phenomenon that's happening, that you know, all of the instruments that were being used in the beginning in a non-selfish celestial fashion dropped in frequency, and so it was starting to be used for other things instead of, you know, you have your Hermes and your Aphrodite in the beginning that they're teaching about these different things separately instead of one. You know, so you're having Hermes is teaching about knowledge. He was thrice great. And then you have Aphrodite that's teaching about love and things like this. But this is, we're talking in a more of a nature sense. We're not talking about in a lustful way. And that is, you're going to opposite ends of the spectrum, and you're bringing darkness and light, you know. So it's saying that the separations of the sexes had already begun, and that self was not necessarily counted as sin because the androgynous god beings in the separation, they paired into companions like Hermes and Aphrodite. They paired in companions because they were working together to teach one thing to the masses. And so there was an essential purity that was still imbued in them. They didn't lust after flesh things. Okay? And then as he began to, you know, fall, and Amilius, he felt like these people needed to be reawakened, you know, and this is how these people were introduced into what you would call your psilocybins and things like that. These medicinal things would give these people kind of like a near-death type experience or an astral traveling experience where they could tap back in to the center, to their subconscious, and it just got hijacked. It totally got hijacked, and the people were like, "Oh, this is fun. Let's take a bunch of psychoactive natural pharmaceuticals, and then we'll take a bunch of natural pharmaceuticals that'll give us virility, you know, and they'll be like aphrodisiacs, and let's just take it to the extreme." So that's what happened. That is exactly what happened. It just turned into a whole system of gluttony and separation and forgetting absolutely where we came from. So Amilius is, at this point in time, has begun a group, and and this group that he brought together, he called it the Law of One. And the Law of One is mentioned quite a lot. I've seen it on, you know, Gaia subscription channels. They talk about the Law of One, but they never talk about where the Law of One actually, how it came about. It came about because Amilius started this because he was trying to control this diabolical rebellion of all of these manifestations of the children of the divine creator. They just got out of hand. It was just like kids in a candy store. So he started the Law of One, and these were the children of the light, and these are the creative forces. And then, you know, I think that somehow or another this ties into the golden serpent and the Tuatha De Danann from your very early times in Ireland. I think that the Tuatha De Danann, they came from Atlantis after the cataclysm happened in Atlantis, and I don't know where Amilius, if Amilius has went back into an etherical being, where Amilius is right now. You know, is he waiting for the time of the lily that Edgar Cayce talks about in, you know, in his books too, and when he in another video, I'm going to go more into the time of the lily, because I believe that we're coming back into a time of the lily, and I believe that it has to do with the Law of One and the children of light. And I think that Amilius has been definitely painted in the wrong brushstroke. Amilius is just like us. We're just like Amilius. We made mistakes. Now we got to fix our mistakes so we can go back home. And so that's what it's all about. And so Amilius was the firstborn. Not Jesus. It was Amilius. But Jesus does sound a lot like Amilius, right? So I'm interested to share more about Amilius with you. Edgar Casey talks a lot more about Amilius, and also he talks a lot about the time of the lily. He talks about the age of Aquarius. He talks about prophecies that are to come and discoveries that we are actually on par for finding. And that's pretty amazing. I want to talk to you about some of the technology, the crystal technology of Atlantis, because he got that information from Amilius too. It's amazing. So anyway, thank you for spending 15 minutes with me, and I highly recommend that you go down to your library too and check out some of these books, and let's find out some more stuff, you know, because energy is transferable in all its forms and fashions. We're electric. We have cells in us that are electric, intelligent. The universe is electric, intelligent. There's always an exchange. So as long as you're tuning in, you can always be tapping in. So thanks for stopping in and joining me for 15 minutes on Sacred Enzyme. And when you search for me, I'll be here, because we're living in the past, the present, and the future, all at the same time. So thanks for watching Sacred Enzyme, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.